Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Hutchinson City Council meeting for Tuesday, May 14th, 2019. Approve the council agenda and any agenda additions or corrections.
Mayor, Council, I don't have any additions or corrections at this time.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Chad, second by Dave to approve the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Invocation is from Oak Heights Covenant Church. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for the privilege of offering a prayer. In the scripture, it says that I should pray, and we should all pray for people who are in authority, that this is good and it pleases God. And so I just want to offer a prayer and pray for wisdom for you. Thank you for your service. Father God, I want to thank you for these dear people, people that you dearly love. Lord, I pray that you give them wisdom and discernment and unity together as they evaluate different petitions and issues. Lord, I pray that you give them clarity and that, Lord, you would be honored. I pray in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Recognitions of gifts, donations, and community service to the city. Does anybody have anything tonight? I do have a resolution under there, resolution number 15040, a resolution accepting $50 donation from Roger and Mary Meese to the Hutchinson Police Department towards the Law Enforcement Memorial Park Fund.
To accept.
I'll second.
Motion by Steve, second by Mary to accept the donation. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Want to do a proclamation now? We do have a proclamation, National Poppy Day, expressing support for the designation of May 24th, 2019 as National Poppy Day in Hutchinson and recognizing the importance of honoring those who have worn our nation's uniform. And whereas poppies are worn and displayed as a symbol of tribute to our fallen and the future of living veterans and service members. And whereas at the end of World War I, the American Legion adopted the poppy as a symbol of freedom and the blood sacrificed by the troops in war times. The symbolic use of poppies comes from the poem In Flanders Fields, which is movingly begins in Flanders Fields that the poppies blown between the crosses row on row, referring to the poppy that sprang up in the turned up earth of the newly dug soldiers' graves over the parts of Belgium and France. And whereas the American Legion families have long utilized the red poppies as its official flower, symbolizing the bloodshed of those who have served in the U.S. military. And it is fitting that as the American Legion celebrates its 100th anniversary, they expand the meaning and symbolism of the poppy, that the manner in which the poppy is symbolized to showcase England and Canada in celebration fashion on their Remembrance Day, also known as Armistice Day and Poppy Day. And whereas wearing a poppy will unite citizens from across the country who have decided to show their patriotism. And whereas May 24th, 2019 would be an appropriate date to designate as National Poppy Day. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the office of Mayor Gary T. Forcier supports the designation of May 24th, 2019 as National Poppy Day and encourage all citizens and residents visiting in Hutchinson to join in the observance of this day to honor every service member who has died in the name of liberty, freedom, democracy, and while also showing their support for living veterans, service members, and their families. All right, public comment. Anybody wants to address the council, please come forward. All right, approval of minutes, regular meeting minutes of April 23rd, 2019.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mary, second by Steve to approve. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Consent agenda. This will be done by one motion unless somebody wants to pull something off for discussion. This is almost a record, Chad.
Long one.
It's a long one. Bear with me. A, consideration of approval of resolution number 15041, amending resolution number 14877, establishing income guidelines and assessment limitations, limitations for senior citizens 65 years and older, disabled citizens, active duty military reserve or National Guard deferred assessments, and senior citizen reduced refuge rate. B is consideration for approval of resolution number 15046, a resolution approving the interfund loan from the sewer fund to the stormwater fund to finance acquisition of a new street sweeper. C is consideration for approval of authorizing Crow River Winery to dispense liquor at the Minnesota Garlic Festival at the McLeod County Fairgrounds on August 10th, 2019. D is consideration for approval of authorizing Buffalo Wild Wings to dispense liquor at Music in the Park at Library Square on June 10th, July 8th, and August 5th, 2019. E is consideration for approval of short-term gambling license to the Heart of Hutchinson Animal Shelter on June 22nd, 2019. Appointment of Diane Wanzik to the Library Board to April of 2001, filling Gerald Grenia's seat. G is consideration for approval of resolution number 15048, resolution for authorizing to execute Minnesota Department of Transportation Airport Maintenance and Operation Grant Contract. H is consideration for approval of 2019 street and pavement repairs. I is consideration for approval of street replay application. J is consideration for approval of resolution number 15042, resolution to sell at auction unclaimed bicycles. K is consideration for approval of resolution number 15043, resolution to sell at auction unclaimed miscellaneous property accumulated by the Hutchinson Police Department. L is consideration for approval of resolution number 15045, resolution to sell surplus information technology property. M is consideration for approval of resolution number 15095, resolution to donate surplus fire department property. and is for consideration for approval of out-of-state travel for Councilmember Steve Cook to attend the Transportation Alliance Fly-In in Washington, D.C. from June 18th through the 20th, 2019. O is consideration for approval of revision to the safety clothing and PPE policy. And P is claims appropriation contract payments, Register A. Is there anything anybody wants pulled off?
I would like Mike to just come and talk about M.
I had a quick question on I, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the balance.
Second.
Motion by Chad, second by Steve to approve the balance. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. I, consideration for approval of street.
Yeah, it just talks about, contacting the property owners. Do we do that,
Right, we've typically either put out like door hangers or certainly put it on the website.
Yeah, the door
I think
hangers,
Facebook really works good, so we'll get the word out about where we're planning to put it down, so.
Yeah, just with they talk about it with the
Yep.
cleaning and plus the odor part of it. too.
Yes, so that we're not, so we plan on doing that, all right?
Then the other thing, since we talked about it, I shared that one report
The Ohio report.
and I haven't
Mhm.
looked
I've gone through
it.
that, about 2 years ago it came out. And if you use Ohio's simplistic method of measuring pavement distresses, the products that they looked at don't make a difference. But if you look at what the federal highway uses, which is the same that we use, they do. So that was the conclusion of that report in essence, so.
I was just
Yeah.
curious.
Yeah,
since-
so I've read that, like I said, a couple of years ago. Yeah.
Are there other products that do something similar, since this one is kind of,
Yeah.
we're tied into this district?
All of them are new enough that they're pretty much going to have the similar kinds of limitations on them, because it's really easy to screw it up and make a big mess. And so then the liability that goes along with that to redo a road, you have to be very specific on the amount of material that you're putting down, and you design that based on what's in the ground, how much recycled asphalt there is. So that's something we take a look at, what's the makeup of that particular mix, design, so we know exactly how much to put down. Toward that end, though, I think there are more, not exactly the same type of product, but similar products that we've looked at. And one of them is a product that Cargill is using. ANOVA is what it's called. They recently did some down in Montevideo and have some good test results back from that. Another one is BioRestore. BioRestore is one of them that's in the Ohio study. One of the things that they're doing that we're watching very closely is they're working on a sprayer technology that's kind of makes it almost impossible to screw it up, so that it's tied in with GPS and exactly the ground speed and also the rate of application. And that type of a sprayer would allow us to do that kind of work internally, which would be a lot less expensive also. So those are a couple of things we're watching, those two products in particular, and mainly, that sprayer. If the day comes, we could get on a regular schedule, and we're seeing the second, third applications, it would probably make sense for us to do something like that. So, okay.
Thanks.
On the Ohio report, basically they come up with if you spend $1 per square yard, per year of extended life is kind of the magic number. So, if we go with the $1.59, a year and a half, if we're getting an extension on the year and a half, and our AURI report would indicate that we are, so we're still doing the right thing, I think, so, okay?
Thanks, John.
Mhm. Yep.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion by Steve, second by Mary to approve. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Hey, Mike.
Chief Schulman, Mary's got questions for you.
Well, I don't have questions. I just think that the fire department should kind of toot their horn, because these are two really deserving donations that you are doing, and I thought maybe you would like to just talk a little bit about those.
All right, I'll keep it short and sweet.
Yes.
Mayor and council. The two items for donation are older pagers. So the pagers are the notification devices that the firefighters wear on their belts. And we've, over the last decade or so, transitioned into the newest model, and just for uniformity and for maintenance and service, et cetera, it's a lot easier having them all the same. Well, we've finally transitioned into them, and we've got, I think it's about 15 of the older ones that most of them are still functional. A lot of times you take parts from 2 or 3 to make one work, but anyway, they don't have a lot of street value or market value. However, neighboring department, Silver Lake, is in need of some additional pagers, so we're requesting to donate those to their department. And then the other item was the fire gear. As the NFPA, National Fire Protection Association, standards have changed over the years. The most recent rendition, 2018, is that talks about the fire gear, the protective gear that we wear, cannot be over 10 years old. So we used to be able to keep the older gear for new recruits as they came on, spare gear if somebody theirs was getting repaired or laundered or something. Can't do that anymore. In fact, the most recent mock OSHA inspection we had from Safe Assure, the first thing they did is they walked over to our fire gear and started looking at the dates, because that's what OSHA's looking for. So to stay in compliance with that, they don't even want that gear available, which it doesn't do us any good to keep it, because we can't use it for anything anymore. So the logistics of it is there's just nobody in the United States then that can that can use it. I've had a couple of my firefighters that go down to the Dominican area for vacationing, and they've been trying to figure out, is there a way to get it there? And that's the problem, is getting it there. So this Chaplain Ministries out of Lindstrom just contacted all the fire departments in the state of Minnesota, and they're putting together a cargo container of fire gear and sending most of it to the Ukraine area in Ukraine that needs it. So it's an easy way for us to do some good with giving to somebody that needs it, and they take care of it. They come to our station, pick it all up, and haul it, and put it on a cargo container, and that's the end of it. So it's good for everybody.
It is. Thank you.
Yep.
I'll make a motion to approve that.
Motion by Mary, second by Dave to approve. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. We do have public hearing, but,
You got
yeah, I know.
8A, consent agenda item 2.
Oh, sorry, Chad, I almost left you out in the cold. We have consent agenda 2, claims of appropriation, contract payments, register B.
I have a check for my business.
Okay.
Yeah.
Approved.
Second.
Motion by Steve, second by Mary to approve. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Sorry, Chad.
Chad abstaining. So.
Yeah, Chad abstaining, yep. We do have public hearing, but I'm gonna jump ahead to new business, approval, placing an eagle sculpture in McLeod County Veterans Memorial Park. Mr. Skoog.
Good evening, and thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. I'm Dave Skoog, Vice President of the McLeod County Veterans Memorial Park. I'm here at the request of Steve Cook, President of the Arts Commission. We've talked over the last 7-8 months. We were talking about the proposed addition to the Veterans Park of a 9-foot wide bronze eagle statue. And I will give this to the start here. It's a rendition of what it will look like. We proposed several different locations for this eagle, and working with Steve and Sarah from the Parks Department and the Veterans Park Board, we came up with the number one choice, which is what you're looking at tonight, which will be the entrance, the south end of the main entrance flower area inside the curbing, so it won't be in anybody's way. I talked with Sarah the other day, and she was in agreement that would be a great place. Oh, good job. And when this is done, that concrete area on the bottom will have a plaque on it denoting what the eagle is for, what it denotes, and the contributors to this project. As of this point, we have all the funding we need for that. It's all been graciously donated by businesses and individuals. It's going to be the first thing to be seen coming into the park, a very patriotic start. It'll be mounted in the next 2 weeks. We anticipate this eagle coming in by the end of the week, hopefully. And we'll get as soon as we get the anchor bolt patterns, we'll be pouring that concrete and mounting it within a day or so. And we have most of that all donated already too. Brian Ponath's helped me in the past, and he's always gracious enough to help me. And Steve also asked me to say what this eagle would mean to veterans. I believe, and I believe as all veterans do, in a statement by John F. Kennedy in 1963, and I quote, "The fierce beauty and proud independence of this great bird aptly symbolizes the strength and freedom of America," end quote. For myself, I don't know what stirs me more, the American flag waving or the picture of that eagle. In Vietnam, 86 of my fellow aviators sacrificed their lives for our freedom in the 2 companies I was with. A lot of companies lost a lot more than that. But every time I think of one of them, I know they would love to see this eagle, the symbol of our freedom for all of us, and what they sacrificed for. Now they can see both the eagle and the flag in this park. That's what I have. Thank you for listening.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Just for the councils, obviously, the desire is to place in the park, and that's the approval that's that's the request that's in front of you tonight. If it's something you do approve that placement of, then we would formally, and my assumption is it's going to be donated to the park, and so we would then, at our next meeting, have to simply do a resolution to accept the donation. So,
Dave, can I ask one question, or just that something that we talked about was just, you know, as other things have gotten added, it's very appropriate, like you said, but when we talked, you thought this is kind of getting to be about it, other than some other monuments that
Right.
need to be
Other than the
placed.
battleship New Jersey, we're going to put in the river. Seriously, we have one GI statue that's going to denote all GIs from all wars that Dr. Kamrath, his son, is sculpting for us at this moment. I believe he's talked with you on this.
Yeah, yeah.
And that, it's going to be a little while before they get that done. That's going to be put in a place kind of inconspicuous, just so it won't take up a lot of space, in a circle of trees on the left side of this picture. And we really don't have anything else in mind. We don't want to clutter up this park either, but there were a few things we thought would be very appropriate for this park and patriotic, and this is the entrance to the park that I really like to see.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks, Steve. So, you want to do something else quick, Amanda?
no, we do need a formal action
Yeah.
from that.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll
Aye.
second that.
Okay. Go
Motion
for it.
by Steve, second by Chad to approve. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Seeing that we have 5 minutes before our scheduled public hearings, maybe want to do item number 19 and number 20?
Okay.
Or actually, you could, yeah, or you could do 16 too, which is unfinished business, however the council pleases.
Okay, let's do 16, second reading and adoption of ordinance number 19-799, ordinance of the city of Hutchinson to rezone properties at 306, 316, and 326 Franklin Street Southwest from R2 medium density residential to R4 high density residential as requested by Prince of Peace.
Mayor and council, you guys considered a first reading of this ordinance at the last council meeting regarding, this is involving an expansion that's going on at Prince of Peace. There's been no changes since the first reading of the ordinance.
Motion to approve?
I'll second.
Motion by Steve, second by Mary to approve. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Do
Want to do 19 quick?
19, yes, we can. Resolution number 15047 to amend the 2019 general fund budget.
Okay, good evening, Mayor, Council. This agenda item pertains to the frost boil issue around town. Public Works has put some information together. There's a memo in your packet from John Olson explaining the streets that'll be basically repaired with these additional budget dollars. They've identified an estimate of about $144,000, just under $145,000 worth of repairs needed to, I believe, 11 different roadways within the city, and there may be more roadways from what I understand. So at this point, we're proposing a $200,000 budget amendment, a one-time addition to the streets budget to address these frost boils, just because of the extraordinary weather this spring, and then kind of evaluate as the year goes on as well.
Could you list, or John, maybe, just for the listeners at home to know that their areas might get taken care of here?
Yeah, kind of the process we're taking is we had to do some screening of material, reclaim material from previous improvement projects. That's done. We've ordered in all of the geotextile material that we need. Our plan is to get going on these beginning next week. Obviously, tonight, the repair amount or the purchase order for the street repairs was approved, so we can get going, and our plan is to start that next week. We'll be excavating down roughly a foot, putting down the geotextile fabric, putting in a foot of fresh gravel, and then when it comes time to patch and pave, we'll remove the top 4 inches, put the bituminous down, and then some of the areas will actually pave over it's called a skim patch on top of that in a larger area to try to protect from that happening again. So
Just maybe rattle off which areas?
the biggest areas affected are near Elks Park on Sherwood and Elks Drive, west of the high school on Lakeview Lane, and there's a couple others.
The list right here is to
Yeah,
help you,
so,
John.
yeah, it's,
Arch Street,
Arch
Elks
Street's pretty
Drive,
bad, yeah.
Lakefield, 7th Avenue Northwest, Service Road 4, Sherwood Street, Garden Road, Michigan Street, Orchard Ave, Lindy Lane,
Yeah.
and Prairie View Drive.
Yep.
So,
It's probably easier to name the ones that aren't.
And on that note too, working with Kevin Matthews through the county, there's a possibility that we'll be able to apply actually for some FEMA funds for this. If that's the case, obviously, then we would be able to return whatever we don't need to the surplus, and then anything, of course, that we wouldn't need above that of that 200,000 would end up being back in the surplus also, so. Okay. Thank you.
All right, thanks, John.
Need a motion. Make that a motion to approve that update or adjustment. Yep, the resolution.
I'll second it. Motion by Steve, second by myself to approve. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried. We have 6 o'clock, so, public hearing.
Mayor and council, we have, let me get this right here, we've got 5 public hearings tonight, so usually we try not to schedule them all on the same night, it's just unfortunately the way it works, so, the first item for consideration for the public hearing is, item number 9 on your agenda, which is a liquor license to Muddy Cow, so I'll hand it over to Mark.
So in consideration of all of your public hearings tonight, I'll try to be as brief as possible. As noted in your council packet, there's the application from Muddy Cow LLC to take out an intoxicating on-sale liquor license, including a Sunday liquor license application. They're going to be taking over the premises of Landy's Lodge. My understanding is they're hoping to get in there as soon as possible. But in connection with their liquor license, they have submitted all the necessary paperwork, their financial information, et cetera. As noted in the council packet, the police department's done an investigation. They have found no reason to deny giving them the liquor license. So it's staff's recommendation that the council does approve the liquor license application for Muddy Cow Hutchinson LLC. One thing that was not contained in your council packet that I wanted to bring to your attention was Landy's Lodge currently has an outstanding Economic Development Authority loan in the amount of $26,452.98. Staff would ask that you make a condition of approval of their liquor license that that amount gets repaid to the city, either from Landy's Lodge or the new owner. But we are asking that the license be made conditional on that loan repayment. And certainly if there's any comment from the audience with regard to the license application, you certainly should be taking that into consideration now.
Open it up for public comment.
One thing to note, I believe we have received notification that as a part of financing, that loan is expected to get paid off, so we're not necessarily concerned with that, but we do feel it's appropriate to make that as a part of the condition.
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second that.
Motion by Steve, second by Chad to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
Make a motion to approve the license with the provision that the loan is repaid.
I will second that.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Mayor, council members, I'm Patrick Conroy, one of the owners of the Muddy Cow Group.
Great.
As far as that loan goes, we're going to consolidate that, and we will be paying that off to the city. So I just want to introduce you to myself.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
We're a family-oriented place. I think you're going to be happy with us.
So
And we
welcome
had
to
the
the
Legion
community.
and the, for the gambling, and Hutchinson hockey for the E-tabs. So we're going to get back to the community here, and we're excited to get open.
Good.
Probably be,
Welcome to
a
town.
month or six weeks or so, but we're trying to get open for the Hutchinson days, but we always have setbacks.
Yeah.
You know how it goes.
All right,
But I just want to introduce myself, and thank you very much.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks
you.
for doing that.
Thank you. Thank you.
motion by Steve and married, or
Second by
Chad
Chad.
seconded.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
Thank you.
Next one is assessment hearing on end project award for Fifth Avenue South reconstruction project letting number 1, project number 19-01. And under there, we have 2 resolutions. Resolution number 1049, resolution adopting assessments, and resolution number 15050, resolution accepting bids and awarding contract.
Very good. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Like Gary mentioned, we bring to you this evening potential project award and approval of the assessment hearing, similar to most of our street projects, street utility projects, where we're administering special assessments also. First and foremost, we did receive bids on March 3rd. We did have 4 bidders that day. Dunnick Incorporated of Princeburg, Minnesota is the low bid. As you can see there up on the screen, we had 3 bids that were very, very close in dollar amount, and the low bid was about 7% lower than our final engineer's estimates. So very pleased with the bid amount, and obviously are familiar with Dunnick's. We've worked with them several times over the years. So I don't know if there was any questions with respect to the bids. Then secondly, what I'll touch on quickly is the assessments. And every property owner that's being assessed received an assessment notice, a hearing notice for this evening stating their assessment amount. That amount mirrored what was presented to them early on in the project process for the most part. We did do a slight revision. I believe we noted this at some point in the process, but wanted to bring it up again this evening. The roadway width changes, and our assessment rates are set within the city's annual city fee schedule. Look down here in red, west of Main Street, Highway 15, the street width that's being constructed is 36 feet. And then to the east, it's 40 feet, so we prorate our assessments based on a 40-foot width basis. So the 40-foot width will receive the full 65, or will be assessed the full $65 a front foot, and then the 36-foot width will be prorated down to $58.50. So obviously this was reflected in the notice that they received in advance of this hearing this evening. And yeah, unless there's any specific project questions, we've talked about this project quite a bit. We've had, a fair amount of discussions with property owners. We've had a fair amount of discussions with impacted businesses, in particular 3M staff there. We believe we have a good construction staging approach going into the project, and yeah, I don't know what else.
Kent,
What more else we can do?
just so we have, what's the term of the assessment?
Yeah, as noted on the bottom, the 10-year term, that'll be assessed be assessed at a rate of 4 to 6%. The bond issue rate plus 1%. And property owners on that front, they'll receive a final notice, yet again another notice from the city stating that final assessment amount, and then we'll know the actual interest rates once the bonds are issued and approved by council in September, more than likely. And then they'll have an opportunity to come in and pay the assessment off in full or a portion of it, usually prior to November 15th is our deadline. What remains gets passed on to the county and then put on the tax rolls. Yeah, like I said, that's all I have, unless there's any specific questions.
All right, we'll open it up for public comment. Just come forward and state your name and address.
Randy Anderson, I live at 506 Main Street, South. So this is for sure going through, this is for sure happening, regardless of, it's already been decided that it's gonna happen, regardless of what anybody that lives on that area has to say about it, pretty much, or what?
Tonight is basically the council makes the final decision tonight on whether or not they move forward with the project.
And then also, what is the benefit of that sidewalk exactly? Because, I don't know, I see other people along that street have issues with it. I'm not fully against it, but I'm also just wondering what they see the purpose of that sidewalk. What's the full purpose of it actually? I mean,
It's just
doesn't,
for safety, obviously. It's a busy road. There's a connection that'll fill the gap from Main Street west, because there is a sidewalk currently east of Main Street along Fifth Avenue. And then that will then connect up to Lynn Road and the sidewalk system there, and then all the cross streets from Fifth Avenue as well.
okay. That roughly $2,500 or whatever, I think I saw from over there. So some of us due, what is it, they hear November?
Yeah,
And then-
you'll receive a final notice, most likely in October, with a due date of mid-November.
And what is the amount that needs to be paid at that time? Or
None
what-
of it. You can
what's-
pay all of it, or a
Okay.
portion of it, and that'll be interest-free. What remains will be transferred to the county at the end of the year and put on your tax rolls,
So it'll be added to like your.
Spread out over time.
spread over a 10-year term.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Fairbanks, you had something?
Yeah, I'm Rory Fairbanks, 506 Franklin Street. I know I should have been here for previous meetings. Life got in the way, wasn't able to attend. The first notice that I heard about this, a neighbor went to the public meetings, came and informed me of what was happening with the project, mentioned that our side of the street was going to lose 11 feet of the right-of-way. And I looked at our property and went, well, 11 feet, not great, don't like it. We got in contact with Kent and some other people at the city.
Yep.
And Kent came out, met with us, and in looking at what the 11 feet actually was, it's not 11 feet, it's more like 14 plus feet. The 11 feet is where the sidewalk starts, and then there's the sidewalk on there, which in turn makes our off-street parking non-existent. We have an old house from, it's 100 years old plus, fairly close to Fifth Avenue. Many of you drive down that street, have seen our property, notice that we park in that spot very frequently. So in essence, by moving that sidewalk into that 14, 15-foot range, we got a phone call actually, which notified us that we would not be allowed to park there, or would not be able to park there anymore. So this is creating a very, a large hardship on us, especially when we got the phone call and asked, well, what do we do at this time when we had a snow emergency? Happened to be a day of a snow emergency. There's no off-street parking for us at that point. And we've emailed all of you on the city council. I do thank those of you that got back to us in responding to that. And for Kent for coming out and looking at it, but we're looking for some type of solution to that other than running that sidewalk straight across the property line, through the alley, and eliminating any off-street parking that we would have at that point. So, I don't know if you guys have.
And so
Your
it's,
parking
Yes.
is garage, right, where your garage is?
We have a garage
Right.
that we do not
It's
park in. It's a
actually
one-stall garage.
506.
We have 2 vehicles.
Franklin.
Right now,
506.
we're gonna add a third, sometimes there's 3 vehicles there. And right now, we can squeeze 2 vehicles in that driveway. And with the sidewalk there, at 11 feet, our bumper would be right at the edge, maybe a few inches over the sidewalk, but that would be at the end of the sidewalk on the street side of it. So we'd essentially block that entire sidewalk if we parked there.
when I looked at it, I measured like 10 feet is what you would have from your garage to the edge of the sidewalk, which, like I said, makes it pretty much unusable for
Right.
parking.
Yep.
Yeah, this is the scenario Mr. Fairbanks is alluding to. Here's the garage. Yeah, the house is on the other page here. Here's the new sidewalk. This would be the property line. This slight dash line here. We're just eyeballing it, maybe foot and a half, that back edge of the sidewalk off of the property line. We're looking to achieve continuity with respect to the sidewalk alignment and corridor for maintenance purposes and to maximize the boulevard width. We are keeping some existing trees, and one of them is on, that's another reason for the sidewalk to be set back, is on their property right here. So, that sidewalk location facilitates being able to keep that tree. And that's all, there's other scenarios up and down the corridor, where we're on that south side. The other thing is respect to the sidewalk and where the street ended up being. We talked about this early on. The grades of that corridor on the north side and the driveway grades, really we had to keep that curb line on the north side where it's at. We couldn't push the street to the north, and then we would have been chasing driveways, up to garage doors and to make up for the grades, and had issues with an appropriate grading match in the turf. This is an old garage. It was put in. It wouldn't meet today's setback standards. Obviously the city has the right to construct infrastructure as deemed appropriate for the entire community and with consistency. We can meander sidewalks, I don't dispute that, but I don't think it's the best decision for the long term from a maintenance standpoint, and obviously from a corridor continuity standpoint. And and we've had some discussions, and council seeing my correspondence, I think there's other options here from a property owner standpoint, other than moving the sidewalk, frankly.
Yeah, but as a property owner, I don't mean to get into an argument on this, but the solutions that were provided to us were move our garage, take our garage down and create a concrete platform. I don't think those are viable as a homeowner. I don't think the city should expect me as a homeowner to now move my garage that's been existing when I bought the property, knowing that I had off-street parking available, knowing that I had this garage available, and now to be asked either move it or take it down so that I could park off-street. I don't find that as a viable option or a legitimate request. I don't think the city should ask me to do that.
There's one option that's being discounted here, and it's park within the garage, to be quite frank.
That would be one vehicle. We're a multi-vehicle family in a city that has snow emergencies where we cannot park on the street during that time. And this is one of those winters that there were many times you could not park on the street. We all know what our winter was like.
Yeah, I've seen other examples. I've talked to the Fairbanks and talked to Kent before too, and Matt, but the simplest solution, and we've done it other places, over on Jefferson by the old car wash is just the same thing, where the sidewalk was curved to go behind the curb just for that area, and then it curved back up into the normal right-of-way. And there's other examples where we've done that on recent projects. I can show you a picture if you want.
The car wash is a unique scenario. That's just a sea of concrete there, but.
Actually, except the sidewalk curves down from the boulevard to just like what would be an option here. And so I think that's fair. Their garage has been there a long time, and through no fault of their own, I mean, that's what was approved at the time, but this would be an option that would make it usable and still provide the sidewalk facility that we need. So I think
Yeah, I
that's
just
something
warn
that-
this is a slippery slope, so I mean, and going forward, you know, it puts staff in a tough position, you know, when we're trying to construct things in a uniform, consistent manner, and we can't identify every potential concern that any given property owner may or may not have along the way. So I would
Well, this
leave it at
is-
that.
Yeah, this is very, very real, and I think it's an exception, like you said, so. And we've
There- I
had
mean-
other places too that.
There will
we-
be a tree that is lost here.
Well,
I mean,
Okay.
we're not gonna put a sharp S curve in this
I-
to go in and out. I wouldn't recommend that from a,
Under Steve's recommendation, I wouldn't see a big S-curve. I would just see it veering out towards the road right at that point, and then back up on the other side of the alley.
it's gonna have to be fairly, I mean, we're talking, like we mentioned, 11 feet there. It has to offset. So. Yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, well, this is an assessment hearing, not,
Yeah. And I was told through the communication that I had with the board members that got back to me was, show up at this meeting and express your concerns. So
Yeah.
I
And take it
understand
under
it
advisement.
as an
Yes.
assessment hearing, this was my last opportunity.
Yeah.
And for me, for my life, this was the only opportunity that I had. My work, my job got in the way of those other meetings. I mean, as you guys all know, I'm a teacher, I'm a coach. I don't have a 9-to-5 job.
understandable.
Thank you.
All right. Yes, sir. Yes, yes, please.
The only other obvious thing is he gets compensated for the land that he's not charged for the sidewalk, and whatever the additional cost would be for him to have his garage probably rebuilt further back onto his property to make that work, to leave the whole thing alone. They might not like that idea either, but there's a third option. I mean, it might,
Except it's city property.
Yeah.
There is no compensation.
well,
so.
Yeah.
but then he's gonna still have to pay for the sidewalk we had to put in, and then not being able to park there, so.
Any other comments?
Actually, the sidewalk isn't part of the assessment, but
No, it
anyway.
And I believe the garage is double wide, so, yeah, I hate to. It's not an 8-foot door, correct me if I'm wrong.
Fit 2 vehicles in there, we tried.
Okay.
Any other public comment? Motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Chad, second by Mary to close the public hearing. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
But just, I'm for, approving the project and accepting the bid and all that, but I think in the Fairbanks situation, I would like to ask staff to, because it's a change order, to get an estimate to what it would take to curve it down so that makes their driveway usable. And then maybe it's a shared cost. I don't know what it would cost, but at this point, we don't know what it is. And so get an estimate, see what it would be, and then we can have a discussion more, see what's possible.
Frankly, I don't believe, knowing the contractor, our relationship, there really isn't gonna be a means, methods, material change here, I don't believe. So I don't think there's gonna be additional costs unless we have to take that tree, unless we determine it's appropriate to do that from a sidewalk alignment standpoint. I think it's more of an engineering judgment corridor continuity consistency decision. And really, like I said, gets to be a little bit of a slippery slope going forward. So I'll leave it at that.
And I'll say, I've got pictures, I've driven around, and we've made adjustments when it's to our benefit. And again, there's another property, the car wash is exactly like this. So it's been done before. It's an exception. It's just a recognition of the unique situation that it is and trying to work with people. That's all.
Well, and I understand where you're at. You know, if you cannot park in your driveway without being into the sidewalk, that's inconvenience everybody, and it's illegal to do that. You know, so.
If
I-
it makes the sidewalk impassable,
Right, right.
we gotta,
We have to have it that
that's
way.
a safety concern there.
Right, right. But I do agree with you, Steve. I mean, if we can work with him and if Kent, if you can check on that and see what the cost would be if we have to include a tree
There
or,
won't be no cost, like I said, more than likely.
unless there's a
I mean,
tree.
Yeah, you know my thoughts on it, so I'll leave it at that.
I know. I know.
I mean, I guess you know, based off of the feedback tonight, if there's a desire from the council for staff to do something regarding the input, that should be, there should be some direction from the council to staff to do that. Otherwise, the items that were in front of you for consideration was the assessment and accepting the bid and awarding the contract. So
So how would you like that
I
direction?
think there should be a motion directing staff to
At this point.
to redesign that portion, and then if there's any costs, obviously that would have to come back to the council for
So
consideration.
we should accept, or do the resolutions and then come back and make that a.
If that's the
motion?
desire of the council. So, because you're not approving anything, you're simply directing staff to bring something back to you.
I'll make a motion to accept the resolutions for us.
I'll second that.
Motion by Chad, second by Steve to approve both resolutions. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Steve, you want to make a motion?
Yep, I
Okay.
just make the motion that staff would look at making that adjustment to that property. And
Yeah.
if there is an added cost, feel it's necessary to bring it back, then do that.
I'll second that motion.
Motion
Is
by,
that- Is that sufficient?
Yep, that's fine.
motion by Steve, second by Mary. Any other discussion?
Yeah, I don't want to dispute that the Fairbanks have a major issue. I bike past their house every day. We're neighbors, you know, but Kent is right. This is going to open up a whole can of worms on every road project we do going forward. And because the unfortunate thing is, like, the Fairbanks' garage isn't where it should be, and that's
Right.
not their fault. And they were like everybody else when they buy their house. They didn't look into where the property or the right-of-way lines are, because nobody looks at that, because that's not what people do. But, you know, their garage shouldn't be where it is, and every person that has a mild hardship is gonna point to this vote.
We've done it before.
Not much, though. I mean, and I'm not saying we shouldn't do this for them, because they are in a tough spot. You know, I'm just saying, like,
You
there's a
don't
lot
want
of,
it to be a precedent, right?
well, but it's gonna turn into one. You know, like the lady with the flower beds that was here at the first meeting, I mean,
Right.
so why don't we dance it around her flower beds too? You know, I mean, and obviously that's more for fun, you know, they're,
Yeah, she's not parking there.
That isn't
No,
the same
but-
at all.
it's similar.
No, it's
She
not.
could make she could make a case.
It's not. This is making your property usable. And that's why this is so unique. It's, those other things are more aesthetics and doesn't get into the way of using your property. And
And again, I'm not saying we shouldn't do this for the Fairbanks, because they're in a somewhat unique situation, but there's a lot of unique situations on most road projects that we do that are in neighborhoods. So it's gonna, in old neighborhoods like this, you know, and we're gonna have some road projects.
Well, I think
That's-
that's something you gotta
Yeah.
look at, I guess.
And this isn't all bad. I mean, we're talking about one driveway and a fairly lengthy project in an old neighborhood. At the end of, there is hundreds of trade-offs that we work through, from alignment, corridor, driveways, trees, grading. You know, it goes on and on. There's a 120-page plan set in here. So, you know, this is just one little decision trade-off. And we're just trying to arrive at those decisions in a consistent, fair, uniform manner, year in, year out. Not disputing, like you say, Steve, but I think some of those in the past have been, you know, scenarios where we've deviated more so from the city standpoint and really how the property owner, you know, utilizes, you know, the property historically. But
Utilizes the property.
yeah, but on the other hand, I dispute a little bit what's going on here because I don't know if the structure is being fully utilized. And I'll just leave it at that. And
Well,
I just hope you realize all the trade-offs that go into a project like this. And for this one, we'll address it, but I hope this doesn't become a trend going forward, like Chad alluded to.
I don't either.
That's saying what I wanted to say more eloquently, so, yeah.
Yeah. All right, we do have a motion. Any other discussion yet? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Moving on to the, oh. We move on? Okay. South Grade Road Corridor Improvement Project, letting number 2, project number 19-02. Under there, we have resolution number 15051. And,
Excuse me.
oh, sorry,
Yep.
got interrupted here. Resolution ordering improvements and preparations and plans and specifications, and resolution number 15052, resolution approving plans and specifications and ordering advertisements for bid. Kent, again?
Yes, thank you. We'll try and make up for a little lost time here. What I passed out was the handout at the neighborhood meeting last week. I don't know if people are here on the South Grade Road front. And if you were at the meeting, you got one, obviously, so I see some familiar faces. It's the same one-pager that we handed out, yeah, on the 7th, a week ago. We'll start with the notice. As usual, we sent out a project neighborhood meeting notice where we worked through the project, introduce the proposed project improvements, and then we get into the hearing process. Obviously, I already referenced the neighborhood meeting on the bottom here that we had last week. Flip the page, we make mention of the public hearing, which we're doing this evening. Assessment hearing, if we elect to go out for bids after tonight's hearing, most likely that'll be sometime in July we're looking at, and then we talk about assessments. On the hearing notice for this evening, we did provide an estimated assessment amount, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. So people have an assessment value that we're pretty certain will be administered in the end if the project moves forward. And then schedule construction, we're looking at late summer, fall of 2019. Like we talked before on the South Grade Road front, we'd wait until after the swimming pool. The aquatic center is closed for the year, which I believe is a week before Labor Day weekend. And as always, we're available to answer questions, meet on site, do whatever we can to help property owners understand what is being proposed. So that was within your packet. That's the notice that went out. What I just handed out was the one pager from last week. And we get into a little more detail with respect to project costs and funding. We're estimating as of right now, and we are currently finalizing the final design and cost estimate, and we'll actually be sending everything into state aid for their plan review tomorrow or Thursday. But anyways, total project cost of just over 2.3 million. We're looking at a variety of funding, kind of makes this project unique. About 440,000 we estimate in bonding. Only 90,000 in assessments. We're administering a mill and overlay rate similar to what we did on School Road a couple years ago. We are only doing a mill and overlay from Merrill to Dale and narrowing the roadway. The section between Merrill and Highway 15, you know, we're really, and we'll get into more detail shortly, reconfiguring that on an existing grade that was built in 95, 96. So there's a suitable sand section, gravel. So basically all we need to do is mill up the existing blacktop, pull up the curbing, put new curb in, and then repave it, regrade it slightly and repave it. So that's why we've elected to apply the mill and overlay rate to the entire project from Dale to Highway 15. Thus, that only arrives at the 90,000 in assessments. There are two MnDOT grants involved, Local Road Improvement Program and a Local Partnership Program. Those total 740,000. We are currently estimating utilizing 750,000 in municipal state aid, and we have about 100,000 in water system, distribution system work, hydrants, gate valves and such. And then we have quite a bit into the stormwater collection system, revising inlets, you know, due to new curb lines, and then also making significant investments at the Merrill and Sunset Street intersections, increasing the inlet capacity, pipe sizing. That'll ultimately tie into the system that goes to the pond, the localized systems on the west and east side of the pond, or the rec center, excuse me, pond / rec center area. So yeah, that variety of funding arrives at that 2.3 million. We have our normal references to city assessment policy, but you get down here to that mill and overlay rate, and we prorated the city fee schedule rate at $30 a front foot based on a 40-foot width basis down to a 38-foot width basis. Thus it arrives at $28.50. Apply that to your typical 66-foot wide lot, which there aren't a lot of typical lots out here along South Grade Road. There's a variety of frontages, and I guess more importantly, there's a variety of corner credit scenarios. And what's played out just recently, and we've had conversations with property owners and sent out a revised notice since our meeting last Tuesday. We typically apply the corner credit, the 132-foot corner credit to the long side of the lot, and then assess them for the short side. Whereas if you reverse that and you assess for the South Grade Road side, there's a fair number of lots that have their long side on South Grade Road, so you assess them at the $28.50 on their long side, and then apply the corner credit to their short side on the side streets, Harrington, Sunset, Merrill, Church, Keith, etc., on either side of the road. And the current South Grade Road assessment could be substantially less than the future side street assessment. And a lot of them, it's about a $3,500 assessment if they take it on within South Grade Road in comparison to a $6,000 assessment on the side streets. So we've notified those, I think there's 10, 11 properties with that scenario. We've sent out a revised notice, tried to explain it as best we could, and then, you know, just hoping to have some sort of dialogue with them, because in reality, they might elect to take their credit now, sell their house in a year or two prior to the side street being addressed, and the new future homeowner could incur that assessment. So there's dynamics there, but we wanted to make people aware of that scenario, so we didn't assess them, not assess them $1,800 or $3,000, let's say, on South Grade Road, and then come back and do Merrill potentially later this summer within the pavement management program project, and approach them with a $6,000 assessment. So you can see the dynamics. We might not be making a lot of friends on that front.
So, now, isn't it just side versus front yard? I mean, it sounds like we're giving people a choice, and
We are giving people a choice, honestly, Steve. Yeah, we typically apply it to the long side, because typically that's how the math works for the long term, is it's more beneficial to incur that full 132-foot corner credit against your long side. If you elect to apply it to your short side, your short side might only be 60 feet.
sure.
Yeah.
But it is the long side, it's not necessarily the front or the side yard, it's the long side.
Yeah, we define it as the long side,
Okay.
but we're welcome to having conversations with people. It's usually in their best interest to apply it to the long side, and we encourage that, but there's some unique scenarios within this project just due to the timing. Like I mentioned, Merrill Street could be a reality where, they could have taken the credit on South Grade Road and avoided a $3,000 assessment, only to see a $6,000 assessment on Merrill later this year. But I'm not saying that's right for everybody, because somebody might say, well, I'm selling my house next year, I want the credit on South Grade Road, and somebody else can worry about the side street when it comes. So with that, yeah, same terms alluded to in the bottom, 10 years. Interest rate plus 1%. And other than that, you can talk a little bit about the project itself. We've talked a fair amount about trees and the likes on Fifth here. Excuse me, South Grade. We haven't talked a lot on trees on South Grade. We are going to right now. So there are some tree impacts, and we knew this going into this project. No secret here. The vast majority of the trees are green ash. We are impacting 30 total trees. Granted, 3 of them are on the rec center. They're 3 small Canada red cherry bush tree sort of things that just want to do away with. And there's a dead sugar maple out there. So yeah, and then we are transplanting 10 trees. But what the math ends up adding up to, actually I misspoke, there are 28 trees that are going to be removed. And we're looking at planting 19 trees, and we've done everything we can. We've looked at where can we plant trees, and the corridor has a fair amount of utilities in it. To the east, we don't want to plant trees over the top of fiber optic lines and larger gas mains and such. But what we did, and it's pretty consistent. The vast majority of the trees that are being impacted are on the north side of the roadway as we implement the trail facility within the right of way. Just flipping through quickly, and we developed an initial planting plan, and like I said, the majority of the trees being planted are on. Actually, they get planted on the south side of the road, with the exception being we are going to work with the ownership of the apartment building here. There's plenty of green space. It's outside of city right-of-way. Yeah, our trail is going to be to the back of the right-of-way, but I think there's an opportunity, and we have to talk to this property owner anyways with respect to this property corner and how we get this trail around this corner. And we've struggled with it from a design standpoint at this point, but we're having those conversations, or beginning to, and we're gonna wanna get that trail up to the Dale Street intersection, even if it's somewhat in a temporary configuration, because I'm thinking when Dale is addressed in the future, this intersection will be addressed in some fashion. We've had concerns with that intersection for years. You don't see a whole lot of pork chop scenarios nowadays, and especially being built nowadays, if any. So, yeah, but we're gonna work with the property owner, get some sort of trail easement, get that up there, and then we'll talk trees with him also, and see if we can get a tree easement of some sort to allow us to plant and maintain trees on private property. We don't like to do that, but I think this corridor, this situation warrants it.
So why don't you complete the trail now, closer to the curb, or?
We are, Steve. We just get pinched by this property corner.
That's the right-of-way, that
Yep,
dotted
yep,
line there?
yeah.
Okay.
So we wanted to, before we make that assumption, arrive at some sort of understanding. Yeah.
Sure.
So from a design standpoint at this point, we just showed it transitioning into the sidewalk, but we want to actually bring the trail all the way to the intersection. And then lastly, and we've looked at this, I think this will be the fourth time at council. You know, there's been 2 studies administered by SRF Consulting. We looked at it from a, basically at the midpoint of the design effort a few months ago. And this is the corridor from Merrill Street to Highway 15 through the 15 intersection. Like we've talked about increasing the turn lane situation for westbound there on the east leg of the intersection. So there will be a dedicated right through and left turn lane. And then likewise on eastbound, that will require a new traffic signal system. So we've worked through that arrangement with MnDOT. MnDOT, one of those grants that I alluded to earlier, is to offset their half of the traffic signal costs. So they're doing that via that grant. The city will be responsible for the other half of the traffic signal for the South Grade and what I'll call frontage road legs. And then you get to the mini roundabout configuration at the mall Cashwise entrance. And yeah, like I said, it's been well vetted by the SRF, the consultant. MnDOT's taken a good look at it, and they've looked at it, their traffic engineer at the district. They've also consulted with their own consultant to review our consultant. So this is, this has been beat up pretty good, and I think we're pleased to report that, with a close look at the modeling, there's a confidence level here from staff and the consultants involved, and I believe this is still a good approach as we near the completion of final design. I don't know if there's any specific questions. I was just going to pop this up. This is
Previous, there was discussion about maybe keeping that one access to the health club?
Yes, that's a good question.
East side?
Yeah, right here. We are keeping that.
Okay.
And we're working with them to reconfigure their front lot due to the roadway tapering into the roundabout, and then we're actually going to squeeze this trail a little bit closer and then create basically an entrance only, obviously, access point that'll access or allow people to pull into 4 or 5 parking stalls on the front of their building, back out, and then egress through the other access point on the north side. So yeah, this was an earlier drawing, and what we're going to do in the end is transfer back or propose to council is transfer back public right-of-way to that property owner. There's a triangle that'll be created in here that really, the expansion of their parking lot will reside on. Yeah, like I said, that's St. James. Like we've talked about before, we've had lots of discussion with MnDOT personnel down in District 6 that were heavily involved in delivering this project. This is a state highway through state St. James, Highway 4, I'm fairly certain. And yeah, it jogs here and continues on through town. Yeah, they've been more than happy with how these roundabouts have performed. Similar situation, there's light freight that utilizes this corridor. You know, obviously there's highway, I know I'm gonna get this wrong, 61, 60, yeah, just to the south.
60.
60, right, yeah, I
Yeah.
forget exactly which highway, but you know, that's really the primary freight corridor in that region, that area. So this trunk highway is more of a regional roadway with not a whole lot of freight on it. And likewise for South Grade Road, there's not a substantial amount of freight. And, you know, we've had lengthy discussions with Cashwise representatives and, you know, their trucks come in from different access points and, you know, they might get the occasional truck that comes in through there, but they'll be able to navigate that mini roundabout. Likewise for St. James, obviously, they're gonna get a truck or two traveling Highway 4 coming through town. But yeah, I just wanted to pop this up. This is, if you get a chance to go down there and see it, yeah, I've been down there 3 times now and talked to people and yeah, it's impressive. And snow removal, yeah, pretty straightforward. You know, everything's mountable. And so yeah, from a snow removal standpoint, they're better than a typical roundabout. And really driver habits are formed where, talking to somebody, I believe it was a MnDOT personnel, down there at District 6, you know, they're not in any hurry to actually remove the snow because people create the tracking themselves and it, you know, the tracking really provides the guidance to navigate the roundabout, you know, and it's, you know, you got a lot of localized traffic that's going to be familiar with the situation, you know, whether it's St. James or here, and yeah, that'll usually just take care of itself.
So Ken, those that are familiar with the other roundabouts in town that have the big center island, this one won't.
Yep, this is a mini roundabout. This is completely mountable, the crosshatched areas here. And then once you get beyond that, this will be your more typical B6 curb, hard curb, delineated median. And, you know, and this is a, you know, an access that we looked at and developed a comfort level. You know, we really relied on SRF and their traffic engineering expertise to determine if this was appropriate to have this egress out of Randall Chiropractic there. So we did arrive at that. Mr. Randall and I have had numerous discussions as we developed this project. So I think we've addressed the majority of his concerns.
What about the Cashwise property? Gonna have to acquire or an easement?
Yes, we're currently drafting basically the limits of and this is something Mark and I need to discuss, and we've done roadway easements in other situations, so it might not need to be actual platted right-of-way. Maybe we could approach it simply from a roadway easement standpoint, but Cashwise is open to whatever property acquisition approach we want to administer. They're very favorable of the project. They realize they drive a lot of the traffic. They see the dynamics there day in, day out, and yeah, they definitely see the benefits of it. Likewise, Anytime's Fitness, you know, has communicated their, you know, belief that it'll definitely improve the overall intersection dynamics.
Kent, is there going to be a upgrade to the pedestrian crossing way on the west end?
Yeah, we'll move the ped crossing from the west leg of Merrill over to the east leg there, and then the median will serve as a refuge, and, you know, so people can stop in it if they feel the need to. But there will be a pedestrian activated crossing system similar to the ones on School Road installed also. I believe that's all I have for you. I think
On this one?
we had 8 properties represented at the neighborhood meeting last week, so we had a few people come out, so we were happy with that. We had a very lengthy conversation, and I think it served staff and those in attendance well.
All right, we'll open it up for public comment. Just come forward and state your name and address, please.
Oh, sorry. My name is Cody Gleasoner. I live with my wife Sherry at 964 Merrill, which is on the corner of, Merrill and South Grade. I just want to say thank you I hope you guys consider this project. A lot of times we get a lot of rain. When we get a lot of rain fast, we're in a real low area, and it floods out really bad, and sometimes it even gets pretty close to the foundation of our house, so any improvements that could be made would really be appreciated. So, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, Bruce Rano. I'm at 585 South Grade, and I've still got a few concerns that I've been talking to Ken about. Access during the construction is one of the major ones that I was told at one time that there may be restricted access to my driveway for a week when that's poured, but this whole block is going to be poured, plus the tear out, the reconstruction, everything. So we're talking, potentially a fairly sizable time that I'm not going to have access. And the people that come in my office, we need to get them to the door. When the street was reconstructed back in the 90s, at that time I was told by the city staff that we'll just have them parked in Cashwise and walk across. And I said, that's not an option. And even now there was talk about, well, we could put a boardwalk, we do this and that. No, those are not options. Ken had talked about the possibility of staging this so that the project would be done to my driveway from one direction, and then when that was complete far enough, then we could have, they could work in that part, so we'd always have access to the driveway. And I guess I need to know if there's some kind of reassurance that I could have this rather than when the construction comes along to find out that, well, sorry, that didn't work out, and then, where am I at then? Also, the trail maintenance itself, when I first built there back in 91, I was told that the city takes care of the sidewalk, don't worry about it. The hearing that we had last week, I was told that, well, yeah, but that could change. What is the feeling of the city on that? Is this going to be taken care of by the city as far as snow removal in the future or not? Because we're going to have twice the width, and whose responsibilities are going to be? Is that actually going to be our responsibility at some point? Because I know nothing was supposedly is in writing, but that's what I was told by city staff back in 91 that was not not a problem. Also, I don't know, I'm probably maybe talking to the wrong group about this. My mail delivery, right now my mailbox is on the street, and obviously we're not going to, I'm sure that you're not going to allow it to have a mail delivery, stop right, coming out of the roundabout.
Yep.
So
we've talked about that, Bruce. That's something, we'll look to address in some fashion in conjunction with the postmaster.
Yeah, because I talked to them before and they said, well, hey, when the project comes along, we'll discuss it then. I thought, well, yeah. But also, when you're doing the mill and overlay from Merrill West, why is that a mill and overlay, but then this project is going to be a total concrete paving? Why?
This isn't total concrete pavement. The red is concrete, the medians.
Yeah.
The yellow is bituminous blacktop.
Okay, because I thought one time you talked about that you were going to be a total, remove the entire surface and pave it.
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, the entire surface will come out here because of the dramatic geometric revisions, and that requires grade revisions, so you have to basically start from scratch. But the thing we have going for us is the work done in the mid-90s there was a suitable roadbed, there's plenty of sand
If
and
it's
gravel.
put down 48 inches at that time, yeah.
Exactly. So fortunately, all we have to do is take the blacktop off, remove the curb, pour the new curb
So this will be
lines in the
blacktop then
medians.
afterwards again?
Excuse me?
This will be blacktop again?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
All the yellow there will be blacktop.
Yeah, because that's, obviously, that won't take as long to be drivable as if we're actually pouring it, yeah.
Yeah, and I think this project, just through the fact of the limited, roadway section work, yeah, this could go very quickly. I mean, in the grand scheme of things,
We'll have no weather.
there's not a whole lot of
Well,
work here.
yeah, any guarantees on that, yeah.
Yeah, and you have it, like I said, and like Bruce, years ago, there's a lot of road section there, so we have that going in our favor.
Okay. Yeah, so I mean, like you're showing they're putting that line through as far as by my property.
Yeah.
So,
That's what we talked about the other night, Bruce, and, that requires some discussions with this property owner, because obviously your property line's right here.
right,
We could do it that way. The other approach, is construct it there, and then have do the temporary access on your property when this.
well, whichever, yeah.
When this is being addressed, so we'll figure it out. We'll have a conversation with this property owner and see if we can arrive at some sort of temporary access scenario.
Yeah, because I guess I'm not looking for something in writing at this point, but I guess want some assurance that I will, that I will have access during the time. So,
Yep, we'll figure it out.
okay, all right, thank you.
Thanks, Bruce.
And then as far as snow removal, Kent, that's on the snow removal route?
Yeah, we did, like Bruce said, we talked about that quite a bit the other night. I explained the ordinance, that trails are treated like, similar to sidewalks, and per the letter of the law, the letter of the ordinance, property owners are required to maintain, remove snow on a 4-foot width. However, a lot of our trail facilities are on our priority snow removal routes and system. So, I say that, don't rush out there and remove the snow. Let us have our opportunity at it, I guess, is what it boils down
I
to.
haven't rushed out there for 28 years so far. I was in a hurry to, okay.
But at the same time, it might take a couple days, right?
Yeah, and we don't, like I explained to the property owners, we're not out there, proactively, administering our snow removal sidewalk, snow removal ordinance. You have to postpone your removal efforts for some time. And we're especially not administering that on trail facilities.
Okay, I'm Doug Brown from 954 Church Street. I was interested in crosswalk. Could you describe that a little bit more in detail? That goes over to Cashwise from Merrill.
Yeah, Merrill. Yeah, the existing walk, it's right off the edge of the page, I apologize, but the existing walk is here.
Yes.
It's a zebra painted walk crossing the east leg, and it ties into that sidewalk that goes off the page there, up the slope towards Cashwise's front door. What we're gonna do is remove this sidewalk, and this isn't shown because this is actually on our city portion of the plans, connect to their sidewalk, pull it over here, turn it, square it up to South Grade Road, and this will be painted similar zebra crosswalk with one of those push button crossing systems where you have the pedestrian crossing side that has the rectangular flashing beacon.
Will that automatically just go on when you push it?
Yep, when you push it, it goes on, it flashes yellow. It warns drivers, that they should recognize that a pedestrian is crossing, is starting the.
I've seen that at Gunderson Clinic down.
But
by
I
Cross.
say that with a caveat when we talk about that, the driver, that's a warning system.
Right.
That's not a red stop ball or signal there. So, pedestrian still needs to exercise caution, but we're providing a mechanism to provide additional warning to the driver.
And then how wide is the sidewalk gonna be?
I believe that sidewalk's 5 feet existing. We'll just
Because
extend it
the
as such.
existing sidewalk now that goes into Cashwise during the wintertime, before anybody shovels it or anything, I've seen numerous times where people have been in wheelchairs and they've gotten stuck and they're just sitting there with their tires spinning. So I'm
Yeah,
concerned about the grade going up and into cash-wise.
Yeah, I'm not
Has-
exactly sure what that grade is. Due
Yeah.
to that slope, there's not a whole lot we can do
Well,
about
for,
that.
for ADA compliance, I mean, it would be
Yeah.
nice to make sure that, you know, you've got a grade that's commensurate with wheelchairs going up.
Yeah, no,
Because we do have a number of people come down Merrill. and come
We can
across.
look at that. It's a tough existing scenario that might require a substantial amount of regrading on private property,
Mhm.
if it is possible to
Well, in your
achieve a
discussions
grade.
with Cashwise, I appreciate if you would just bring that up, because, I mean, they're customers with Cashwise, and I'm sure they'd want to be amenable to that as well. Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else? Motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Motion by Chad, second by Dave to close the hearing. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Mayor and council, obviously in front of you tonight is two resolutions. One that would order the improvement preparation of plans, and then approve the plans and specs and ordering the advertisement for bids. As we've known in the past, this is really your first step in moving forward with the project. And so what's being asked for you tonight is to, Kent's presented you with the plans, what they'd look like. If you're okay with moving forward, you would simply approve those plans and then authorize staff to go out for bids. So that's what's in front of you tonight, based off of obviously what you've seen and the feedback you received from the public.
Kent, I just had a question, with the roundabout going west from 15, okay. And, looking at the report that was provided before and just watching it a lot of different times, you're comfortable that the westward traffic will be able to be accommodated. It seems like they're going to be limited somewhat by the people coming out of Cashwise who will want to make a left-hand turn. And so...
Yeah, no, that's a good question.
Now, just
And
watching
we
it,
looked at that, yeah.
just watching it,
Yep.
one, it's going to slow traffic up a little bit just going around the roundabout, but then again, also possible stacking. Just watching it now, there might be multiple cars in the left-hand turn lane to go into Cashwise, while at the same time there's through traffic going by. So.
Yeah, I think the one thing we have going in our favor, this left, albeit it's problematic, it's not a majority movement of that intersection, but it's a movement that currently creates issues today, is when you have somebody sitting here waiting to take that left and they're staring at 3 lanes of traffic coming at them from the west. You have the through, the right, and then the evolution of the left turn lane is already happening, on this side of the intersection as you're approaching the signal system. So what happens is you have a lot of drivers approaching, and people will sit there and wait and wait and wait, and then until they see that car pass, and then they look the other direction, back to the right to see if it's clear to take that left. By the time they're looking back to their left, they're seeing another vehicle approaching them in one of those 3 lanes, basically. So what this will do is provide some safety improvements for that left movement. And we talked a lot about that with the consultant and MnDOT. And you can reconfigure this and add lanes and shuffle the lanes, and we talked about that early on, but you're not going to improve that left turn dynamic. And I think the scariest thing in my mind, if the car wash situation changes and all of a sudden people aren't allowed to utilize that private property back there behind Cashwise, to the west of Cashwise, to egress and ingress their parking lot, there's going to be a lot more people out here looking to take a left, and I think we something stays, if it stays the same what's out there today, or we just address it with lane configuration, we're gonna have a significant issue there. And the other benefit is the traffic that comes off of 15, you look at the counts, it's not like there's people, it's not like it's all coming from one direction. What I'm trying to say, it's coming from all three legs, whether they're taking a left from northbound, you know, slowly those cars are metering around, taking a right from southbound, or you see a fair number of people, you know, they stack here and then they sit up here and stack, trying to occupy that through lane. So that traffic that's hitting this leg of the roundabout going westbound is staggered, is metered. It's not like you're opening up one of those signal system movements and you have, you know, cars in that northbound left turn lane stacked back to Century, waiting till just hit this direction. So from a counts movement, it makes sense.
Well, there's times.
Yep, there's time, I'm not discounting that. But on the other hand, you design to a peak scenario when in reality, your peak hour
Yeah.
is or it's not even a peak hour a lot of the times. It's a peak 15 minutes when you
They
look
even-
closely at this traffic data.
You mentioned the other entrance, if that closed, and even the report says that if traffic would increase for some reason, which that would happen then,
Yep.
there could be the condition where it could stack back towards Highway 15 or stack into.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
But
that's the scenario because
Yeah.
of the left-hand turn. So it seems like we're benefiting, you know, the people coming out of Cashwise, and I agree. It's a significant safety enhancement for them, but at the exception maybe of some of the other traffic, the through traffic. So.
Well, no doubt, Steve, the through traffic is definitely controls the intersection today. And that somewhat gets compromised with this approach. You know, I don't dispute that. But you look at it from a roundabout operations standpoint, and, you know, I see it every day driving Highway 7 at Carver County 10 and State 25, the Watertown roundabouts, and, you know, they compromised Highway 7 through movement when those were built, but the turning dynamics and the gaps seem just to weigh themselves out. You know, you rarely get that movement that just overtakes the roundabout where this left. At some point, somebody coming eastbound here is gonna break that up.
Yeah, I would agree with that, or even the right-hand turns. Even Cashwise kind of makes a break too.
I think one of the benefits we have now is that people are getting used to using roundabouts.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, you go back a couple of years ago when they first were put in, people didn't understand how to use them. But I think now, you know, I drive Highway 7 quite a bit too, and, you know, you're right, Kent. I mean, you know, you hardly get, you know, if you get 3 cars piled up at one of them, that's unusual, you know, with the turning, you know, as people understand how to use them, the flow of traffic goes pretty good.
Yeah, some people understand too well, and they've gained the ability to hit them going about 25 miles an hour. You see that on Highway 7 too, so they shoot the gap pretty well. Yeah.
That's what the Camaro's for. Anything else for Kent? Otherwise, we have a motion to accept both the resolutions.
I'll second.
Motion by Dave, second by Mary to approve the 2 resolutions. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right, water treatment plant reverse osmosis membrane replacements, letting number 9, project number 19-10. Under there, we have 2 resolutions. 15 15053, resolution ordering improvements and preparations of plans and specifications, and resolution number 15054, resolution approving plans and specification and ordering advertisements for bids.
Yes.
Kent again?
Yeah, this will be much briefer. Formality, like we talked last time, on the water treatment front. This is our engineering estimate that was presented when this hearing was ordered. We're fairly confident in this construction cost of $340,000. And really, construction cost is maybe stretching it a bit. This is basically the procurement of the membranes. So all we're doing is buying the membranes, and like I alluded to in the description, the installation will be administered by city staff. Thus, we still need to put together the documents, the engineering bid documents. So these fees, as we work through our overall program, will more than likely go down. Those are our standard fee rates of 15% and 6% respectively on the engineering and administration front. So yeah, I think what we're looking at now is getting this project, getting the documents put together, and hopefully going out for bids shortly here and having a bid opening on June 12th. We're confident we will have one bidder that we've worked with quite a bit. With respect to the membranes, we're specifying, there's proprietary vending rights involved and the likes. But we do have a good relationship with GoldenEye Solutions, which has worked with us since we built the plant, and they've administered the pilot testing skid that was installed by Dow, who actually makes the Film Tech RO membranes, reverse osmosis membranes, that we continue to utilize and that we'll be specifying. Albeit it is a public bid, we do have to allow the opportunity for another bidder, vendor to supply a product that meets the merits of our specifications. Thus, we'll have a pre-bid qualifications approval process built into this one. So if somebody thinks they can make an RO membrane that meets the specifications of the Film Tech Dow membrane that we specify, we will take their information, we will review it, have whatever technical expertise we deem necessary, review it, and then make a decision whether they will be allowed to bid on the project or not.
So Kent, when's the last time those were changed? How long do they usually last?
In 2013.
Okay, so is this the life expectancy of that?
6 years.
All right.
Yeah, the initial ones we stretched out to close to 7 years, and we incurred some significant operational issues by trying to stretch them out that far. So it's going to be 6 years. Like I said, we have a relationship with GoldenEye and with Dow, and we've, over the last 6 years with the membranes that are coming to the end of their life cycle right now, we've dabbled in different approaches, different treatments and flushings, and this is about as good as it's going to get as far as the life cycle.
Good. Thank you.
Any other questions for Kent? Open it up for public comment.
Make a motion to close the hearing?
Second.
Motion by Chad, second by Mary to close the hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
I'll make a motion to approve both resolutions.
Second.
Motion by Steve, second by Chad to approve both resolutions. Any other comments? Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Kent. Granting a franchise to HTI, TDK, and Uponor to erect commercial signage in the city right-of-way of Technology Drive Northeast.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. As you may recall, the city charter for the city of Hutchinson requires a public hearing anytime that it's proposed that a private entity be able to use city right-of-way for basically a commercial purpose, actually any purpose. You have to say okay to that request. And you may recall we've granted franchise agreements in the past. I think one of the most recent ones would be for Below Zero, the yogurt shop. Also in the past, another example would be the awning for Citizens Banks, actually in city right-of-way. So later on tonight, you're going to be approving the project for the construction of Technology Drive, and that's the new name for the HTI driveway on Highway 7. And through the negotiations that myself, Kent, and Miles have had with both HTI/TDK and Uponor, you may recall they currently have a sign that's kind of in the middle of that driveway now. Under our city construction policies, we would not allow a sign to be in the middle of a street like that. So with the proposal that this now is going to be becoming a city right-of-way, it was necessary to provide a location for the signage for those two companies. The city was not successful in obtaining private property on either side of the proposed right-of-way from current private landowners. So as a compromise measure, Kenton and staff have identified a place where that sign could go. As you can see here, Highway 7, it would be proposed that would be on the west side of the new Technology Drive location. Obviously, the sign itself would not be that large, but this is just to delineate the general area where the sign would be. So before you tonight is a franchise agreement to allow TDK, HTI, and Uponor to put a sign in the city right-of-way. Similar to the other franchise agreements that we have with other entities in town, it's proposed to be for a time of 20 years. They are going to be filing adequate insurance of $1.5 million with the city to protect the city from anything that might happen in connection with the usage of the sign. Also, as part of the agreement, they are agreeing that they would be holding the city harmless and indemnifying us, again, if something unforeseen would happen with regard to the placement of the sign there. So as I mentioned, the city charter requires us to have a hearing to obtain any public input that there might be with regard to your consideration of approval of this franchise agreement. And this would be the time then to obtain that public comment and then to make a decision on whether or not to grant the franchise agreement to HTI and Uponor.
Thanks, Mark. Now open it up for public comment.
Make a motion to close the hearing.
Second.
Motion by Chad, second by Mary to close the hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Make a motion to approve it.
Second.
Motion by
Got it that
Chad. Motion by Chad, second by Steve to approve. Any other discussion?
Yes, I do. I have one question. Is that highway or that road going to be 80 feet wide? Is that what I see?
60.
60?
That's the right-of-way.
That's the right of way.
Okay.
Yeah, the roadway itself is, I gotta think a little bit here.
It's not very wide.
No, existing, we're actually widening it slightly. It's right around 22 feet in width, pavement edge to pavement edge. Today, we're gonna take it to about 24 feet, if I remember correctly.
And then the
So
center-
the sign's going to be on poles like it is now?
Yeah, it's supposed to be a pylon sign, right? So
Okay,
poles.
Okay.
It's in the island.
And if it's not transferable, so if businesses changes, then
Correct.
they have to
Or
come
if they
back.
cease operations, they have to remove the sign from the right of way. That's in the agreement.
Call a motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you very much.
discussion and review of the 2019 National Citizen Survey information.
Mayor and council, it's been, I guess, a plan of the city's dating back to at least 2007, where every 4 years we perform the National Citizen Survey. That was included in the budget for 2019. I've included in front of you a copy of what the survey looks like. And as I noted in your board packet, and I think a previous email to you, we have 3 questions that we can basically form our own, ourselves. It's a part of the survey. What's actually 3 or more. If you want to do more than 3, there's some additional costs related to that. Otherwise, you see the standardized questions that have been included. I think last year we were able to make a couple, or last time we were able to make a couple of minor adjustments. But one thing is that we use these questions to benchmark ourselves against several other communities throughout the United States. So it's just something to keep in mind, that if you look to dramatically change any of those questions, you then kind of end up losing some of that benchmarking. So that's really where the benefit of those 3 questions that come in that you have to choose from. As I've noted, those are questions 14 to 16. And actually the questions that we did in the 2015 survey are currently included in the 2019, just to kind of give you an idea what, those are 3 questions that we formulated on our own. And so as staff is getting ready to kind of finalize, this questionnaire to deliver the survey, we're probably looking at this going out late June, early July, depending on, what we want to look at. I wanted to at least bring this in front of the council to see, okay, we've got these 3 questions that are really for us. What do we, obviously we look at, this is meant to help us make policy decisions. That's sometimes we do a good job of going back and look at it at the survey. There's probably other times we need to focus on that a little bit more. But really, that's what I'm looking for from the council. We have 3 questions that we can kind of come up with whatever we want. From a policy standpoint, what are you guys looking to get answered from the community to help you make a decision on one thing or another, or to get some information on one thing or another? And so I guess I'm looking for some ideas, some suggestions on what you'd like to see for those questions. And eventually what will happen is that we'll bring this back for a formal approval on what's laid out.
That's when I looked at it, I looked at the conclusion from last year, and one thing that we get digged on seems consistent over the years is our roadways. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, Kent, if sounds like we're still not allowed to have like a street assessment type, or not assessment, but a
Utility district?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, not by state law. You can have a sidewalk utility district, but you cannot have a roadway. And then even from an you might have read in the paper, St. Paul was really pushing the limits of that and administering a right-of-way assessment that they've since had to move away from due to some case law.
There'd be a way to ask a question, would you support a tax increase that would be dedicated street improvements? Mm-hmm. Could we do that as part of if that was acceptance or high support for something like that?
I mean, essentially you'll be looking to dedicate more of your general fund tax levy to streets. And this goes back to where, we do our questions every 4 years, but we've never done follow-up. And maybe that's what needs to be done, because I think this is what is somewhat frustrating, because you're right, Steve. We always get dinged on the road saying that our roads are horrible, and in some comments, some of the worst in the state, which I think is just, we go and we do our analysis of our roads, and that just isn't truthful. But now we all know that perception and reality are 2 different things, and when you ask people, and I go in a group and I said, okay, what roads are really horrible that you feel the city is lacking in addressing? You know what I hear? Parking lot at the mall. The roadway behind Cashwise before that was fixed, and the roadway that goes in front of the mall, that's all private property. And so that, in my mind, it's, do we need to do more of a direct question regarding we historically get dinged on it, what specifically are we lacking in funding?
It could be, through the question, could be a little explanation about our current plan and the money that we do invest every year. And then we'd be willing to spend more tax dollars or be taxed more to.
And I would say that's similar to,
like the rec center question,
yeah, I mean, I think you could do something like that,
Yeah.
where we could identify, whether it's a per income, or I mean, a per capita, or, just dedicated toward street improvements, and would you be in favor of?
Yeah, just on that note, and, it's no secret, but, municipalities, and more so in the metro areas, the suburbs, they're dedicating, in essence, large portions of their general fund levy to roadways. And there's suburbs like Minnetonka, they don't assess. There's others that have, in recent years, figured out a way to leverage utility franchise fees. Not that we obviously have a city-owned utility, so it's a little different scenario. You're not leveraging CenterPoint and Excel and others, but it's going to be a struggle, and we're seeing the construction costs. We were fortunate enough, and we'll talk about HTI's old driveway, like Mark said shortly here, but we've gotten a good number on that job and Fifth Avenue. But we're hearing in the region and from county engineers, and West Metro's been seeing it for years already, construction costs, and we've talked about this, are heading up and heading up quickly. And it's going to be interesting what we see on South Grade Road with this mid-year sort of bid opening, and then likewise come fall on the Main Street Highway 15 front. So, yeah, I just say that there's needs there. I think we definitely do get beat up, and, I question how much people are leaving town when they make comments like that, but,
I mean, because, and one of the things too that it's been interesting, because we've talked about trying to engage the community more to get more feedback. And so I've actually been talking with a company that allows some more online engagement through surveys and up-to-date timing. Well, they just bought out NCS, the company that does our survey.
Oh, interesting.
So I've already been talking with a salesman of potentially being able to factor that into some of our online stuff, which might be a great opportunity to follow up with some of these questions. Because like I said, and we do a great job of reporting. Hey, we go out and we grade every single road in town. And we've got a grade on the condition of that road.
Yeah.
And like I said, when you hear people say, well, this road's horrible, you go, actually, it's just not.
Well, there are some.
No, and I'm not going to sit here and say there aren't. No, I'm not going to sit here and say there aren't roads, but that's where I think some of these, where we can do some additional follow-up on some of these questions and get easier for us too.
I think you're right, Matt. Most of the time it's the private property ones that they always talk about right away.
Or until they did that skim coat on Main Street, that was
Right.
years ago. Getting comments and, well,
Right.
it's
Or
state
even
highway.
before 2010, the Washington Adams dynamics, remember that, before that got addressed, yeah.
Well, I would guess there's not a city council in the state of Minnesota that doesn't hear that their roads are the worst in the state.
I agree.
But honestly, I know ours aren't, because I know what the streets are in the community I live in and where the investments are going, so.
Well, and that, and I agree with that, but yet at the same time, from the survey.
Yeah, that's what we
we're
continue.
below
Yeah,
average.
we continue to get.
Yeah.
You're right. So.
And the other one was, with the sales tax, maybe it's last year we had a question about the rec center. Maybe we start laying groundwork for possible sales tax for rec center upgrade or other
Civic arena
recreational,
upgrade.
other recreational uses, you know, how, knowing it's not gonna be due until 26 or whatever. What would you think later on? This be a good use, or for what type of projects maybe?
Or anything else, and this will be a conversation I have with staff, too. Maybe there's a couple things that we're looking for, just so I can throw some lists together for you guys.
Got
to-
one more?
Sure, like I said, I'm looking for more.
Can you tell me what number 14 brought back as far as opinions were concerned?
Do you have that, I didn't bring that?
That's,
I want to say it was like 40%, 44, that was the question regarding the rec center.
Recreation Center.
I know about that.
Because it was gonna raise the value of a home back then, between 90 and 135, what, 100?
Was strongly support was 33%, somewhat support was 32%. Strongly opposed was 21, somewhat opposed 14.
So
65%
would be the favorable
support.
response.
Interesting.
But yet that, in a way, that's consistent with some of this other stuff that we've been hearing.
With the master park plan, too, that's some of the same responses we're getting from the public. So it's nice when those things gel.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, and I'm open to, like I said, we've got three questions, so if there's something that you think of, what I'm gonna try to do is potentially get a list of, 3 to 5, for when we look to kind of put a final stamp on that for you guys to approve. So that'd be a question I'm gonna raise with staff to see if they've got, some of the things that they're faced with to ask as well.
I know there was talk about like daycare and even the affordable housing, which there's some questions in here, but I would really like if we can do something on our own that's a little more in-depth, like with the childcare, we could work with SWIFT and rural policy development. They had a big thing about that, to have a little more comprehensive survey versus just 1 or 2 questions, and kind of maybe with that affordable housing, we've got that grant, that helped with 5 workforce housing, to help with the gap financing, but to try to understand that a little bit better might be helpful. So, but I just say that do that outside of this.
It's
where
tough,
we could
because
be a
you
little
probably really
more-
need to ask a handful of questions.
Yeah,
Each one of those.
exactly. Yeah.
So it's tough to. Okay, no, I've got some ideas to run with. Like I said, I'll be having a conversation with staff as well to get some input, some ideas from them too. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Matt. Update on summer campground attendance.
Mayor and Council, this is just something that staff wanted to bring to your attention. I know it was actually something that you guys had asked to have included in the budget for 2019, so we just want to at least bring it to your knowledge that, I believe it started this past weekend, correct, Dolph? So we have hired somebody to be a part-time attendant out at the campground, as we noted within the board action form. Current hours are, Monday through Thursday, 4 to 7, and then Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, 1 to 8 p.m. Really running from this past Friday until Labor Day, and then we'll have some reduced hours after that. That individual will be placed in what's kind of the paddle sports area right now, and so they'll be there. And I've listed some of the duties of what that individual is going to do, and I know they've got some handouts, and I don't know if Dolph, you wanted to show it, or if you maybe wanted to just add a little bit more of some of the other duties the position will be doing.
Yeah, as part of, last year, I think we started putting some signage out for emerald ash borer to make our camper customers be more aware of, what's happening. I'm sure most of them know. But this year, we're going to probably step that up a little bit more, working with, Sarah's been working with the U.S. Forest Service, the DNR, USDA, and there's all sorts of literature out and available that we're going to be more intentional about distributing to our users. Additionally, there's a first detector manual that our staff will have as some required reading. So in case they get asked a specific question, they might have more knowledge. We'll have probably 6 to 7 attendants that'll fill all those time slots over the course of the year. So they'll serve as almost a campground host, meeting and greeting. We'll have things that can probably go on windshields. They'll have access to who's camping, and with our new online system that we have, they can get a list of, so that if you're down there, you're not going to get one on your windshield every day. Might be every other, but try to just distribute more information to encourage, buying local. To that extent, we do have, all of the service stations in town do have firewood for sale.
Would they provide that to list? I mean,
Yeah, I think that would be, here are some outlets available to you with some addresses and phone numbers.
Senex did it.
Yes, yeah, it'd be really good. And I think they do have firewood available right now, so.
They do.
To encourage those kinds of sales. I think, our clientele there is fairly sophisticated. They're people that camp a lot. I think they understand what emerald ash borer and how devastating that can be. And I think they're folks that want to play by the rules. So while they may bring their own firewood and they may bring construction debris, we don't necessarily see that as being a huge carrier, because I think they're cognizant of the fact that it can be transported. With that said, it's in Wright County, it's in Carver County, surrounding us, if you will. But I think education can go a long way, and that's what that staff will be encouraged to share with our utilizers of the facility, as well as some kind of custodial effort that takes place, and hopefully we'll have some stand-up paddleboard rentals and kayak rentals, which has been, fairly popular. It's a nice service to provide to the users.
and that's started now. I saw
Yeah,
over the
on the 10th,
weekend
yep.
So would that be available every day of the week since somebody's going to be there?
Every day of the week, yes.
Wow, nice.
Yes.
Good
So,
days.
yeah, 7 days a week. And then what Sarah and I and Matt and the finance director talked about was, okay, we might need to abbreviate, the time, we'll monitor our budget, obviously. We did put, some increment in the part-time seasonal temporary. We'll monitor that. And then we'll see what September looks like. They'll be able to monitor how many people are actually having a campfire on a Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. And oftentimes there aren't any happening those. The bigger audiences there, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sundays, because we track all that stuff. And then we can make some decisions after Labor Day at how much of a presence we want to have on site there. But for sure the weekends, because right up till MEA, we're pretty much gangbusters. Hopefully our sanitary sewer project will be done on the site. They've experienced some water filling their holes as they've dug in the new sewer, so
Looks like they're making headway.
I think they made some headway today. I don't know that we're going to necessarily meet the deadline, but it'll be close. With that in mind, we are contacting the people that had reservations. We already gave them one bite at the apple to cancel their reservation because we weren't sure if we were going to be open. We're going to reiterate that fact to them that it might be a later decision, or they might need to come self-contained. And a lot of those big RVs, they got, you can just live in those places. So.
And I think it's important.
For 2 days, it'd be no problem.
And I think the council, I think you guys know this, and one of the reasons we made this kind of first step is it's a popular campground. And it's becoming more and more popular, and I think as we get in, this is, you know, a little bit ahead of ourselves, but as we start looking at the master park plan, when that starts making its way back to you guys, you're gonna see that there's some long-range thoughts for that location too, and so, you know, I think this is kind of some of those first steps in doing some of that.
So that you have online registrations, do you use the, you got everybody's names and
Oh, yeah.
all that?
That's
so
how we've
do you
distributed
do
it for-
surveys
Oh, yeah.
for
the
people
park,
like afterwards?
Park master
and-
plan,
Yeah.
that was one of our distribution sites, so we had a lot of visitors that, you know, kind of gave us the scoring on the survey stuff, and, you know, we had, I don't know, probably 15% of our respondents were people that don't reside in the community but use our services, whether it's programming or our campground.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we can,
Just think of
get
campground and
information.
specific.
Yeah, and really be able to dial into that user group.
Dolph,
Which is
on
really
that
nice.
survey, do you ask them what amenities they use when they're here or not?
This was just the master park.
This was just the master park plan. We haven't done a tailored survey, but I think as you'll see what comes out of the master park plan, there are some suggestions for the campground for improvements that we could drill down with our user groups to find out where their real interests lie. My guess is they're gonna go, yeah, we like all that stuff.
Yeah, well-
And we want a couple more
You know,
things too.
it'd just
But-
be interesting
Yeah,
on.
to get that feedback, I think it's good.
Well, if they come out what amenities they use here,
Mm-hmm.
you know. 'Cause
And we got a little bit of that from the Parks Master Plan in that user group of things that they, you know, the stuff's all kind of linked together. They like circular trail system that we have in the community, where you can do loops instead of just out and back. You know, so we heard that and people indicated that. And it just gives us a good chance to listen and then provide the things that they're interested in.
Anything else for Dolph? Thanks. Thanks,
Thank you.
Dolph. All right. Down to 18. Skip a few, all right. Project award for Technology Drive and West Highland Park Drive construction project, letting number 5, project number 19-06. And under there, we have resolutions 15055, resolution adopting assessments, and resolution number 15056, resolution accepting bids and awarding contract. Kent?
Yes, I'll just briefly touch on a couple items within your council packet. First and foremost, there's the bid tabulation, this document, you know, that we typically review before we award projects. There were 3 bidders, 3 bids received from 3 bidders, obviously on May 1st. The low bid is William and Mueller and Sons out of Hamburg. And they were about 10% less than our final engineer's estimate. We were very pleased with this bid, like I alluded to earlier. So it was a pleasant surprise with respect to what we've been hearing going on around us. So we recommend awarding to William Muellers and Sons. On the assessment front, within your packet, there's a petition for local improvement form and then an agreement of assessment, waiver of hearing, and waiver of irregularity and appeal form. We call this our petition and waiver process, where you can have the property owner petition for the improvement, sign off on the petition, and then sign off on the waiver form. Thus, you do not have to administer an assessment hearing process and notifications and all the notifications that are required of that. This is the only property being assessed on this project, and they are the only property that's contained on the assessment roll. So with that, we recommend awarding the project to William Mueller and Sons and approving the assessment roll.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion by Chad, second by Mary to approve both resolutions.
Can I
Any
just
other
make,
discussion?
sorry, there's actually 3 resolutions then.
Yeah, oh, excuse me, there is, Steve, because you're right, yep, we skip when you do the petition waiver process, yes.
It's an extra
So
one.
we approve the petition, yeah, it should be noted.
Missed the agenda.
Let me dig here.
That's
What's that
15058. So,
15058.
yep.
Okay,
I'll amend my motion to include it.
I'll second it.
5058, and make sure we get these all, 15057,
Exactly.
what was
15056, yep. So, 06 is the resolution declaring adequacy of petition and waiving hearing on proposed assessment. 057 is resolution adopting assessment rule. 08 is the accepting bid and awarding the contract.
so it's the 4 resolutions?
3 resolutions, yeah.
3?
Numbers got off one.
Oh, okay.
And also, I want to thank Mr. Sabora here and Miles. There were a lot of moving parts to making this project happen and getting the approval, the award to happen this evening. So working with TDK, HDI, and UPNR representatives.
So Chad, did you amend your motion for all 3 of those, and Mary, did you?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Call the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Setting budget workshop for May 28th, 2019 at 4 PM.
Mayor and council, this will be our annual budget kickoff meeting, where we kind of just go through a little bit of where we're at and try to get some goals and some plans from the council on where to move in 2020. We're also going to touch on both the facility plan and our fleet plan at that meeting as well.
Chad, you're on the edge of your seat for the budget?
I love budgets.
I figured that. Motion to set that as a meeting?
So moved.
Net. Motion by Chad, second by myself for workshop for May 28th. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed, carried. We have minutes, reports, and from committees, boards, or commissions. We have the Public Arts Commission minutes from March 14th, 2019. Chief Gipperson, you have anything for us tonight?
No.
All right. Dolph, you have anything else for us?
No. Thank you.
Kent?
Yes, Highway 15 Main Street, quickly here, they had their business property owner meetings today. They had 3 of them, morning, lunch, late afternoon. Morning was pretty well attended, the other 2 were lightly attended. But MnDOT's doing their part, and they're trying to reach out. They're gonna keep reaching out to property and business owners. They're gonna be going door to door here in the near future. So they wanna get everybody in the loop, and it's not only MnDOT, but Mary Hudson with the chamber will be assisting in that outreach effort. So there's no excuse, I guess, to not be informed on that project. MnDOT's doing everything they can in conjunction with the chamber, so thanks to them. Also on that front, there's a notice that'll be going out with respect to the city utility and work and associated assessments. We'll be administering a meeting with downtown business owners on Thursday, May 30th. We're gonna allow a larger than normal time frame for that. 5 o'clock we'll start that evening, go until 7:30 here in the council chambers. And we just want to talk to people about their sewer and water service dynamics. There's some unique scenarios out there that we want to get in touch with people and have a full understanding what their expectations are as we finalize the plans. Then we'll be able to firmly establish our special assessment approach. And airport hangar progressing very well, very pleased with the general contractor and the building subcontractor. So if you get a chance, take a drive out to the airport. It's gonna be a nice building, when it's all said and done. And lastly, and you might already know this, I may have sent this out via email, but Highway 15 north of Kimball up to 94 is detoured and will be well into July, from what MnDOT is saying, so, and it's
Sure.
not too bad?
No, not at all.
Fairly scenic, isn't it?
What's that?
Fairly scenic over in that area, isn't it?
Yeah, you go, east, you know, and then you go north.
Fairhaven and then up, right?
Augusta, and you go right into, so it's a shot. I mean, it's not bad,
Don't add too much time, I heard.
what's that?
It don't add too much travel time, does it?
No, I think my GPS maybe added about 10 minutes maybe overall.
That's not too bad. Yeah, I haven't driven it yet. Good to hear.
Yeah, a lot of traffic on it, I can tell you that.
I know, I believe it. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Ken. Mark,
Nothing else tonight.
Mary, let's start with you.
I have nothing.
Mary, Chad,
I have nothing.
Steve.
Just sculpture stroll update. Pieces are starting to come in and get some nice comments and.
Seeing Humpty Dumpty's in the park, huh?
Yeah, my kids really enjoyed the Humpty Dumpty parts.
Saw some some students were taking selfies with them and.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
We took a bike tour of the new sculptures, and Ben enjoyed Humpty Dumpty.
Of course.
We saw the farmer at the farmer's market, and he goes, I like the oranges better.
He has an opinion already.
Yep. So that's his feedback. So.
Anything else, Steve?
That's it.
Thanks. Dave?
I didn't even know that changed. I see it just about every day when I go to work. Immaterial, I don't see a lot of things. I think the only thing that I would do is encourage everybody to be aware that school is soon out, and there are a lot of kids out and about on bikes and trikes and whatever else, and so just be safe.
Thanks, Dave. Matt?
Just one thing, just a quick reminder, city offices will be closed on Monday, May 27th for the Memorial Day holiday, which will be the day before our next council meeting. So that's it otherwise.
Dolph, is there, you know, if the weather's nice, can we extend the pool maybe till Memorial Day? Or
Labor Day?
Or Labor Day, I'm sorry. Yeah, Labor Day. Well, Matt said Memorial Day, that's why I got caught. I know the problem is that we have or I suppose we're gonna run into construction, right?
Yeah, that,
Okay,
that and that rec
Okay.
center roof will be contemplated, and we've talked about trying to get that done so that we can maybe get that all buttoned up by Thanksgiving. And what we found is, you know, the 2 short years we've been open.
Yeah.
When we've closed, number one, staff starts heading back to college, but number two, as soon as the fair comes, it's like a ghost town.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's important, you know, we're obviously always looking at it, and we're always trying to judge, and, you know, this gets back to even the comments about, you know, building an indoor aquatic center. We just don't have the staff. I mean, that's the number one
issue.
issue.
And we're getting younger.
Yeah,
A lot of 15
yeah.
and 16-year-olds.
You know, and one thing to note too, that's great this year, and Dolph, I don't know if you've said it, but I know it's out there, there's actually gonna be 6 days this year of free swim.
Free swims.
From
I've seen
5 to
that,
8,
yeah.
and twice per month that we're open due to, once again, thanks to Hutch Health and the Common Cup.
Common Cup, yeah. And then we have an advertised open date, but we're hopeful that it's during the last week that school's still in session, but we're trying to organize the staff to run some evening swimming, start our adult lap swimming a little bit earlier than the advertised date. So we're going to have it closer to Memorial Day because we'll be a little more toward that date, but
Yeah.
I think we're going to be pretty firm on the end date.
Well, I can understand, you know, we can go by weather too, but, you know, staffing is the main driver, I'm sure, but, you know, somebody asked me, so I just thought I'd bring it up, so.
to operate that in
That's-
the summertime. And
That's-
we'd play heck, as Matt said, on a year-round facility to staff at that kind of level. Because kids are busy.
Yep. Yep. Thanks, Dolph.
You bet.
And maybe something for the paper. I know I mentioned this before, but when we were talking about the roundabout, yeah. Wonder if we could, maybe Chief Gifferson could help out with this, but maybe the rules of a roundabout, if, is somehow how to navigate a roundabout or something, because, I don't think it's be bad to get that out there,
Is there some videos that could be shared, Kent?
Yeah.
Even with the minis?
There's lots of information online, obviously, yeah.
That we could,
See if there's some stuff out there.
Yeah, no, and MnDOT, actually, the MnDOT's, and I don't know, nobody gets the old annual state MnDOT map anymore, but for years, they had the rules around about, on the map. I think it's still on there, honestly, but there's, the things with rules of the roundabout can be somewhat of a controversial discussion, and Chief Gifferson might be able to echo this, but it's not as black and white as what you imagine, so,
Well,
yeah.
I'm sure of that.
Just close your eyes and go. I thought that's not the.
Well, when you drove
Speed up
truck, it
and
was like,
shoot the gap.
I'm bigger than you, so I can go, yeah. But that was, I just thought that'd be something that we could look at maybe.
Yeah, no, I can look into, I'll look what, I think we want to echo what MnDOT is.
Shut that out.
Yeah.
Media. So.
It's publicizing on a state level.
You got it already?
We had an editorial back in October where I list tips from MnDOT for how to navigate roundabouts.
Yeah, that's right. You did, yeah.
Gary was gone when that episode came out.
Repent.
Evidently, you must not have had pictures with it.
But now you have to tell them how to navigate the mini roundabout.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It is different now,
It's a
so.
little different.
It won't take them long to get used.
No, it'll be good.
It'll be all right.
Alrighty, with that, that's all I have, so
Oh, yeah.
adjournment's in order.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Chad, second by Steve to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.